Let's talk about euphoria. This is the definition of euphoria. You might also hear euphoric. We will talk about the adjective form in just a second. But euphoria, maybe you can see from the pictures, it looks like people are very, very happy. And that is what the definition of euphoria is, like really, really happy. Euphoria is when you are super happy, like really, really happy. How about this? Winning the game filled him with euphoria and he couldn't stop smiling all day. Now, Filippo mentioned one of his children. I won't give too much information, but does a sport at the national level. One of his children will be going to another part of the planet to compete in this sport. And I'm sure as a father, he is filled with euphoria to see his children compete like that. He must be very proud, very happy. The adjective is euphoric. So I'm sure when he travels to another part of the world to see his child perform, it's got to be a euphoric feeling, like really, really happy. Anticipation means when you look forward to something happening in the future. So I'm sure if you have a big trip planned, you might have anticipation for that trip. A couple members were talking about getting together. And before that happened, like they met in person. So before that happened, I'm sure there was a lot of anticipation for the event, like a little nervousness, definitely happy, maybe a little euphoria in there. How about this? She felt a sense of anticipation as she waited for her birthday party to begin. Come on, little kids, right? There's something that's going on in the United States this month where I think a lot of children have some anticipation. And we might also use anticipated for the verb, like they anticipated an event. In the United States right now, many children are anticipating Halloween night because they will get lots of candy. Anticipation. Little nervousness there. She had so much anticipation, she couldn't wait any longer. Look at those people in the picture. I mean, they look like they are waiting for something and they look like they are very happy for it. Resentment. So we will have some good feelings, some good emotions, and some bad emotions. Resentment is one of those bad emotions. Resentment is when you feel angry about something that happened in the past. You might also hear the term, you can't let it go. So in the past, somebody has done something to you that has made you upset, that has made you angry, and you can't get over it. That feeling is still there of, how could you do this to me? Resentment. How about this? He had a lot of resentment because his friend borrowed his bicycle and didn't return it. So I'm not sure if you've ever had this situation. Maybe you lent your friend something and they don't return it. So you have to ask them for it and hopefully they give it back. But before you ask, you might say, hey, I hope they return it just so I don't have to make it awkward and ask them for this item back. Do you remember a couple weeks ago? I had a leak in my ceiling again and I couldn't go live. I had to postpone the live until the next week. Well, my brother lent me a big fan to help me dry out my basement. And that was several weeks ago. And I still have the fan. Hmm. I hope my brother doesn't resent me. I think I'm going to see him later today. I need to remind him about the fan. Lex, actually, I should just, hey Siri, text Ben. Sorry, I still have your fan. Okay. Hopefully that makes it better. So hopefully my brother Ben won't resent me. What about this? He resented his friend because he never returned his bike. So resentment is the noun, which you will hear quite a bit, but resented is the verb. So this emotion can be used as a verb or a noun. Very common, verb or a noun. Sometimes we'll talk about the adjective, like we did with euphoria. So, because we talked about a bad emotion, let's talk about a good one, like a really good one: compassion. Compassion is when you feel kindness and want to help someone who is sad or suffering. I just did a English lesson at an animal shelter. I just did an English lesson at an animal shelter, and all of the people work there have a lot of compassion. They feel love for animals and they want to help them. They are very compassionate people. That's the adjective form. So you can have compassion or you can be compassionate. She showed compassion by comforting her friend when they were feeling sad. Compassionate. Compassionate is the adjective form. She is a compassionate person. Overwhelmed. I have a definition for you. Overwhelmed. That means feeling like you have too much to do or too many things to handle, and it makes you stressed or anxious. So take a look at that picture. Take a look at the woman in the picture. It looks like she has a cell phone being pushed in her face. She has looks like some papers. Looks like she might have a report she has to look at. She's got one laptop in front of her, and then I don't know, is somebody pushing an iPad towards her? So she might feel overwhelmed with all of those things going on. So I know young parents with young children might feel overwhelmed. They have a job. Maybe they're trying to learn English. They have their kids. Like sometimes you can feel overwhelmed, or the situation can be overwhelming. Let's take a look at an example sentence. She felt overwhelmed with all the homework she had to complete in one night. So, when you have too much to do, too many responsibilities, too many duties, you can feel overwhelmed. And a lot of times, if you feel overwhelmed, you feel stress. Vulnerable. Vulnerable. Vulnerable means being in a situation where you can easily get hurt or feel weak. And I'm going to talk about a couple types of people that are especially vulnerable. And in the picture, I don't know. This man, to me, he looks a little older. I don't know if I would call him an old man, but he's a little older. So a lot of times, older people, or we might use the elderly, older people or the elderly are often vulnerable. I mean, we've probably all heard stories of just older people going for a walk or just walking to the refrigerator and they break a hip. Last week we talked about bones, didn't we? That English lesson. So it's very easy for older people to break bones, unfortunately. So they're vulnerable. They are easily hurt. They can feel weak sometimes. And if you look, this poor man's probably sick. He's got a mask on. She's got a mask on. So he's probably pretty vulnerable. Just a cold or the flu could really cause him some problems. But we talked about compassionate, and it looks like that woman, I think she's a woman, she's also wearing a mask, but she has her hand on the older man's shoulder. We could probably call her compassionate. So it looks like she is trying to take care of that elderly man because he is vulnerable. How about this? Children are vulnerable when they cross the street. Like they're so small. Sometimes bigger cars can't see them. So they need to be careful and look both ways. Yeah. Children, older people are often vulnerable. Animals are often vulnerable. How about this? A little mouse in a cage full of snakes would definitely be vulnerable. We talked about cage last week in the bones lesson. Talked about rib cage. Vulnerable. How about this next one? Remorse. Remorse. Remorse is when you feel really bad and sorry because you did something wrong or you hurt someone's feelings. So this could go with resentful. The other person might feel resentment for what you did, and you might feel remorse, which is another way to say you feel sorry about what you did. Remorse. She had remorse after getting into a fight with her sister. Maybe she said some things she shouldn't have. Maybe she misread the situation. And then after that fight, the sister feels bad. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's another way to say remorse. Ooh, I shouldn't have done that. You feel bad for what you did. So you can have remorse or you can feel remorseful. He was remorseful after he sent the nasty letter to his sister. Yeah. Poor sister. Like people are getting into fights with her, people are sending nasty letters. I did have that as the boss, but then I thought, well, if you send a nasty letter to your boss, you might get fired. So I don't know if that was quite remorse or not. Irritation. You can have irritation. That's the noun. You can be irritated. Let's talk about what it means. Irritation is when something or someone bothers you and makes you a little bit angry or annoyed, irritated. It's almost like before you become angry. It's that emotion right before anger, irritation. A bug. How about this? A bug that's flying around you. That can be irritating. You can feel irritation. I mean, you're probably not angry. It's like, get out of here. You get irritated. How about this? The loud music from the party next door caused me a great deal of irritation because I wasn't able to fall asleep. So you're not so angry that you're going to stomp over there and start yelling at them, but maybe you really wanted to get to sleep and it's just hard for you to get to sleep. You're irritated, not mad, not angry. Maybe if it goes on for a little longer, you will, and then you'll become furious and you'll go over there. Maybe you'll carry a baseball bat with you to prove your point. Hey, you kids, turn that music down. I'm going to start breaking windows. Maybe. But irritated isn't that bad. I was irritated because the party next door went on until the wee hours of the morning. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the wee hours of the morning. That might be a new term for you. That just means the really early hours of the morning. Like when I hear the wee hours of the morning, I think 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Those are the wee hours of the morning. Maybe not 5 a.m. because people start waking up. They have to go to work maybe at 5, but certainly 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, those are the wee hours of the morning. And the next one, I really like this one. Nostalgia. Nostalgia. Nostalgia is when you remember and miss the good times from the past. So, a lot of times when I smell turkey in the oven, it makes me think of Thanksgivings from the past and I'll feel nostalgic. That's the adjective. Thinking about the times when my mom was cooking turkey for Thanksgiving. Yeah, I feel very nostalgic. Oh my gosh. Next year, guess what? I graduated high school in 1994. So next year, in 2024, it will be my 30th year out of high school. Can you believe that? And sometimes high school classes will have reunions. And I think that comes from the French when you get together. So I think my class is going to have a 30th reunion next year. Who knows? I may be in Dubai and Jordan and I won't be able to go, but I'll probably feel really nostalgic if that happens. That's the adjective, nostalgic. Let's look at another example here. Looking at old photos filled me with nostalgia for my childhood. I felt very nostalgic. Sometimes you can get a little sad when you think back on the times that you had. Yeah, those were good times. You can feel very nostalgic. Sometimes you can be sad because you're getting so old. Let's look at apprehension. This is almost the opposite of anticipation. Apprehension. This is when you feel a little worried or nervous about something that might happen in the future. Apprehension. You have apprehension. You could be a little apprehensive. She felt apprehension before taking a big test at school. She was very apprehensive. So that means when you are worried about something happening in the future. Resilience. Resilience means being able to bounce back and keep going even when things are tough. You don't give up. And if you are learning English, you have to be resilient. That's the adjective form. You have to have resilience because it's hard. You are going to have some bad days learning English. You might feel frustrated. You might want to give up. But if you keep going, you have resilience. You are resilient. How about this sentence? Despite facing many challenges, her resilience helped her succeed in school. So you can be resilient. You can have resilience. All right. One of my favorites, because I get to talk about an idiom we use in English quite a bit. Oh, and somebody earlier said in the chat, they were wondering, do I use these? I do quite a bit. Yeah. Not every day, but probably a couple times a month, I will use these. They are upper level, like I said before, probably C1, B2. What about curiosity here? Curiosity is when you want to know and learn about new things because you find them interesting. Children. I have a couple pictures of children here. They have a lot of curiosity. That is the noun form. And if you want to describe somebody, you could say they are curious. And those two people, those two children in that picture look pretty curious to me. How about this? His curiosity led to him. Start that again. His curiosity led him to explore the forest and discover many different kinds of bugs. So, curiosity is usually a good thing, but sometimes it's a bad thing. And in English, we have this idiom called curiosity killed the cat. So, this is when curiosity can get you in trouble. So, how about this? Imagine two coworkers. Let's call them Alex and Chris. And they see a folder on their boss's desk labeled confidential. If you see the words confidential, that means it should be kept secret. Like it's probably not for everyone to know. If you see a folder on your boss's desk that says confidential, you should probably leave it alone. But they are not going to. Alex is very curious and opens the folder to see what's inside. Chris warns, hey, remember, Alex, curiosity killed the cat. This means that Alex's curiosity could lead to trouble, like getting in trouble with their boss because they were looking at confidential information. So they became curious, or so curious, at least Alex did, that he opened this, or she. Alex could be a girl's name. And if the boss walks in, like, what are you doing right now? Why are you looking at that? That's confidential. You fired. So curiosity could get him fired. And I think we have one more. Hang on. I think we have one more. One more. Shame. Shame is when you feel very embarrassed and bad about something you did. Shame is the noun. The adjective to describe someone is shameful. Shame. She felt a deep sense of shame after accidentally spilling juice all over the floor during the party. Yeah, you can't take it back. You feel bad that you did it. And since this is a family channel, I wanted to say juice instead of some alcohol. And I know some people watching may not drink any alcohol.